Ladies and gentlemen, this Red Gamer video, we are hearing that Call of Duty Advanced Warfare on the Xbox One is not running natively at pure 1080p. So basically, during an Ask Me Anything, the co-founder of Sledgehammer, his name of course would be Michael Condrey, and he was asked basically regarding the Xbox One's performance and resolution. Now he said that the title was going to be running at least 1360 via 1080, which is a 50% increase over last year's Call of Duty Ghosts. Now, the PS4 version will be running at a native 1080p, and I was 1920 by 1080, and of course, the titles will be aiming at 60 frames per second, so theoretically the performance should be pretty damn good. So, the main point, however, is the Xbox One version is supposedly going to dynamically scale to a full 1080p. Immediately, we can see that the benefits of this 1360 by 1080 is that it's a very PR-y number. However, there is a benefit to it over 900p, which is another resolution they could have gone with. I'm just scrolling through my notes here. I've got a bucket load of them, if I can bloody well find them. I am the professional like this, you see. Aha. So 1600 by 900 is 1.44 million pixels. 1360 by 1080 is 1.468 million pixels, actually slightly over that, there's an 800 attached. Whereas 1920 by 1080 is, well, 2,073,600 pixels. In other words, you actually get plus 28,800 pixels for choosing 1360 by 1080, so technically there is a pixely bonus, if you will. The major issue, however, is that, well, not issue, but the major concern many are citing the developers chose this resolution for is because it's a very PR-y number. To be totally honest, this is very standard in gaming. Last generation of systems, if you do a bit of research, you'll actually notice quite a few titles which ran at resolutions like 1024 by 720. Or 1152 by 720, and so on and so on. In other words, they would sacrifice one number just to make sure that they do say 720p, and the purpose is obvious. It sounds much more palatable to those who aren't too technically inclined. I've got to admit, I'm actually waiting for my copies of the title to be delivered. It's a bit frustrating, but there you go. You know what things are like sometimes. You're just kind of tapping your fingers, waiting for the bloody copies. I'm buying it, of course, on all the systems to, well, review it and stuff. But from what I'm hearing from those who actually play or have the game, it's playing really well on the systems, all of them. The PC version, just as kind of a heads up, I'm hearing that the PC version, you should disable shadowing. Shadow cache, because basically there are some performance issues associated with that. Not dynamic shadows, I'm talking about the caching, because supposedly you can have some problems with basically trying to fit it all in VRAM, unless you've got a ridiculous amount of VRAM, and even then supposedly it can cause some problems, just for your FYI. When it comes to the PS4 version, I am hearing early reports of crushed blanks. Now, I don't know how true that is because I'm not playing it. I would just like to point it out, however, that that's what I'm hearing, because, why not? Might as well talk about all the versions. With the Xbox One version, however, obviously, I'm hearing it's slightly blurry, because obviously it's not native 1080p, but I'm hearing that the performance is pretty good, and it does look much better than Ghosts. I will say that Ghosts, if I'm totally honest, was a bit of a it was just tragic on all platforms. It didn't matter if it was PC. The PC performance was shocking, to be totally blunt, considering that it didn't look that aesthetically pleasing. So, great on Sledgehammer for that. I find it difficult, however, for them to criticize the decision of the resolution. Despite the fact that I'm critical about resolutions in general, and I do wish more titles were running at 1080p, the fact of the matter is you've only got a finite level of hardware that, what you can do with the hardware, and if the developers tried everything they could, they pushed the hardware as much as they could with their expertise and their coding techniques currently, and they really did do their best to get the highest pixel count possible and get the best aesthetics, I don't have an issue with it. It's like, well, what else can they do, really? In a game like this as well, 60 FPS, it's like you can't sacrifice frame rate on an FPS. It's bad in an action game, but in a game like this, you can't sacrifice it. So you've got to make sure that your frame rate is pretty fluid, because otherwise people are just going to really not be happy, particularly in competitiveness, or competitive online. It's not going to be good. So they couldn't sacrifice that, meaning they've got one of two choices. They can lower the pixel count, or they can start turning down special effects. For example, have crappy level of detail on certain models, or whatever they would have to do. Therefore, really, the only thing they could do is the pixel count. They've optimized. I'm assuming they've optimized it the best they can anyway. Who knows, maybe in a month's time there'll be a patch to slightly increase the resolution, but for now, they've done the best they can. That's all they really can do. And one can argue that it's a very PR-y number with 1080p, but, well, yeah, I guess that's just... I think, yes, it is a slightly higher number than 900p, but you can't argue with the fact that it is PR-y, but I don't really see an issue with it in this particular case. Yeah, I do have problems when it comes to developers kind of doing sneaky downgrades. But you know what? I'm actually, from what I'm hearing, it's pretty good. So I just guess we'll have to wait. I will be doing, of course, some investigation regarding this. But I don't really think, just from my initial impressions so far, that the developers could have done much more. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.